Welcome to the Meta One Coin Report, exploring the world of private digital currency through the eyes of human rights and empowerment of humanity. Here's the host of the Meta One Coin Report, Leanne Carroll.
Hi, this is Leanne with the Meta One Coin Report. And as you know, Meta One is developed for the freedom and the abundance of humanity. And one of the reasons why we want to have freedom and abundance for ourselves is so that we can share it with others. And that's one thing Meta One is doing, is sharing freedom and abundance with all of humanity. And we're doing projects. Today on the show, I have a very special guest. His name is Runs Before Them. He is a Lakota and lives in Standing Rock. We've done some work with the Lakota people in helping them regain their sovereignty and their sense of self. And welcome to the program, Runs Before Them. I would like for you to introduce yourself and ultimately tell your story. So how are you today?
I'm doing good. Thank you for having me on. It's a pleasure to be here.
I'm so glad that you have joined us. I'm so inspired by your story. I'm so inspired by what you're wanting to do for the Lakota people and for your nation. And I'd like for you to start just by telling me a little bit about yourself. I found the way that you got your name so fascinating. Make sure you include that in the story.
Oh, okay. How mitakiapi wichitokab ianke imachiapi. My name is Runs Before Them. I'm Hunkpapa Lakota from the Standing Rock Sioux tribe. And growing up on Standing Rock, I guess I'll just go right into, I'll back up and tell the story about how I received my name first before I go into the other stuff. But my great grandmother, Annie Hakiktawi, was a survivor of the Wounded Knee Massacre in 1890. And where I got my name from, Runs Before Them, Wichitoka Bianke, is after my great grandmother Annie. So what happened on that day in 1890 in December, my great grandmother's village was attacked, and over 350 people were massacred. And my great grandmother was one of the survivors, the few survivors of that atrocity that took place. And what happened that day was my grandmother was when the 7th Cavalry opened fire on the encampment. My great grandmother was one of the first ones to start running from the pack of people. She was in front of the other women as they fled from the gunfire, and she was shot one time in the wrist, and that bullet dropped her to the ground, and she stood back up and started running again, and a second bullet hit her in the hip, and that bullet knocked her down. And when she fell, another lady with her baby who was still alive had fell next to her. And so grandmother, she grabbed that infant and crawled into the creek there, and in Wounded Knee, and she stayed there for 2 days and 2 nights in December weather. And then on the third morning, when the cavalry and civilians came to start gathering bodies, my grandmother emerged from the creek. And at that time, she had been given medical attention after that. And so that's how I received my Lakota name. And all my children have names after her for the deeds she did after she was struck by the second bullet. And so, like my daughters, Lois is Ihachaktawi, which means looks after them woman. My daughter Shantoya is Wia Washtemi, which is good woman. And Maureen is Takiniwi, which is survivor woman. And Frankie is Ptechalawi, which means short woman, because my grandmother was a short woman. And my only son's name is Nupak Inaji, which means stops twice, for the 2 times that she was stopped from running away from the gunfire. So it's both an honor and brings a lot of sadness to my heart to be able to tell that story because of what she endured in the 1800s with the United States government. So it was when I think to my hard times here, I look back to that, and it helps me to be able to be stronger to know that um, they went through such a horrendous ordeal, and from that we are here today. So that's the honorable part, but the sad part is the atrocities that they had to endure during those times. So
Absolutely. Thank you so much for telling that story. Were you born on the reservation?
yes, I was born in Fort Yates, North Dakota.
And what was it like to grow up on the reservation? What was it like to be a child?
It was confusing coming from the family that we had. My mother was both into Christianity and the Lakota traditions and spirituality. So it was kind of a confusing time. But our family gravitated more towards the traditions and the spirituality of our people. So I was able to learn a lot from that. So we didn't grow up and live in the community of or the district of Little Eagle. We grew up on the outside of Little Eagle, about 4 miles south of Little Eagle, out in the country. And so we had a different lifestyle of the gardens, having horses, chickens, living out on our own and surviving on our own. We had no running water, we had no electricity to our house. So we had my brothers basically had to haul water from the river, and I remember helping them with 5 gallon jugs as we walked back up towards the house, So it was a very trying time. We burnt wood for heat and cooking, and but down in the community was a different kind of uh, lifestyle where it was very kind of like confused, lost kind of feeling because you had a bunch of people living in one area that really had nothing to do. There's no nothing for the kids. There's nothing for the adults to basically keep them busy. So a lot of people are sitting in the constant realm of the thoughts and feelings and all these different things that take place. And then when you put alcohol and drugs in the mix of it, it's very difficult to live in that environment and grow up that way. It was a time of a lot of basically violence due to the fact of alcohol and drugs, and so mostly alcohol at that time period. But uh, it was very difficult to know the things that were taking place because we had to live in such a stressful environment that looking back at it now, it's like I can't remember a lot of my birthdays and whatnot because of the stress that was happening so much on a reservation, especially in our little town back in the 70s and 80s, late 80s. They actually nicknamed Little Eagle, where I was from, Death Valley, because of the situations of the car wrecks from the alcohol and the brutality of when people gets their inhibitors are gone and then they end up hurting another individual. It was just so much tragedy taking place there, but at the same time you had a group of people, the elder people, trying to hold the people together. So learning about the traditions and the spirituality from my grandmothers and my grandfathers and my uncles and aunties, it was a very uh, strong spiritual time too to be growing up into, because I feel like something was turning towards where we are today, which is a lot of people being very lost in today's society. So growing up there at that time and being able to learn and basically inherit some of the stuff that our people, the practices, the culture, the traditions, the spirituality, the ethics, the values and the morals of being a Lakota people, it brings a lot of self pride to be a part of our family, and to be able to try to pass these different teachings on to the younger generation, is mainly the seventh generation that we're living in. So it was very interesting life growing up there. Again, nothing much to do. We had horses and whatnot, so we had stuff like that to keep us busy. But the other ones down in the community, they struggled a lot with basically something to keep them going, a purpose maybe, or a foundation of having uh, something good in their life, a belonging to a certain people, I guess. And that's kind of, it was dissipating in the years that I was growing up there. So
I see. So it's all about getting back to the principles and the spiritual teachings of being a Lakota. What are some of the principal and foundational beliefs of the Sioux culture?
It's based upon compassion, respect, fortitude, um, all the different values that we end up losing as we grow older in life. The ability to respect one another, it has gone from you know so different from back in the day, because I remember the compassion, the humility, all the different things that were taught to us as we were growing up, knowing how to respect the horse enough to raise it from a colt all the way till its last day as an elder, and treating it with respect, and learning that with the horses. It kind of helps you generate a respect for other people and yourself. And so you learn about these certain things that traditions, through spirituality, pass on to the people. And so it's all based upon how, basically how you would want to be treated as a human being. You learn that through spirituality first, and then it turns into the culture, and then the traditions, and then the culture. So the living of the people, when I look back to the stories of what my elders have told us about how the people conducted themselves in the Tiwahe and the Oyate. It's like the family setting and then the community setting is what I just said. So when you see the family setting, it extends out to the community setting, and it was all based upon spirituality, because going back to the values, no man, no woman wanted to feel shame upon themselves, so they didn't bring it on to other people. And so the foundation of how the people function on a daily basis was all based upon spirituality, the creator, and what he granted us each day. So it was something that was very stern when it came to the people, that you didn't disrespect another person. And if you do, it'll be dealt with by the honored individuals, such as the society warriors, or the women's circle, should it have been a woman. There was a lot of different things that were different than today's society. And you had the women's circle over here, and then the men's circle over here. They ran parallel with one another in the same direction for the same purpose, and that was to be able to cross over this life, knowing that you lived a good life, you did your best for your people, and you came last. So you put the people first, your family, and then the community, and you put yourself last, so that that basically came back to around to you through spirituality. And that's why a lot of our people were so honorable in the things that they did, because they respected everyone and everything around them. And then they had compassion, humility, fortitude, gratitude, all these different things as a human being, the human aspect of it. That's how the people function, and in our societies of yesteryear.
Are there elders that principle in place today?
Yes, there is. Unfortunately, like a lot of our elders, because what's holding the main teachings of the culture and the traditions up from reaching out into communities is that you have American education, that has, you have to have a certificate. You have to have gone to school a certain amount of years, so you have the ability to teach the kids. What they're not allowing is the elders to go in without that certificate and teach the kids. So then that part is really lacking amongst our people, because you have these laws set in place that prevent the people from actually teaching the traditions and the spirituality and the culture. So there's a big gap there due to the laws and the educational system that's in place, and that's where people are really struggling right now. So it's very hard to get past that deal. We're still fighting a lot of different suits in the government, that are asking the government that to give us back our ability to live the way we once lived. So that because what they did was they took away so much from our people that it's very hard. You see, and it's the reason why you see all these broken people, because we're not allowed to live the way we once lived. Now, of course, in today's society, you wouldn't be able to completely go back to that, but you can get pretty close to it with the spirituality and then the traditions and the culture. So not being able to do that for the people is very hard due to the laws. So that's where we're really stuck at, is not being able, other people, not the ones who aren't educated themselves, to turn around and teach the young ones. And it's a big struggle.
I can see that. It seems like it would almost be a divide.
It is. Yep. Yep.
What would you say the relationship with the US government and the Sioux people is right now?
Uh, right now, I think I not only think, but I feel that it's no different than it was in the 1800s, due to seeing how the people are functioning back home. It's like you have really no progress in the system in place, all the way down from the household to the community, and then to out to the throughout to the reservation itself, which comes from the same system that our people follow, which is basically uh, the government's way of um, saying, okay, there's a president, there's a vice president, there's a secretary, and there's a treasurer. Okay, so and then up underneath that, you have all these different people who are working. Uh, Basically, the way I see it is against the people, not for the people, because you still see people at home living in mold infested homes. Sometimes they have no electricity because, like I told Justin, the electric company of that area, Morro Grande Electric, if you're behind on your payment in midwinter, even if you have kids or not, they'll take your meter off of your house and you have no electricity. And the tribe won't do anything to back them up, because what you have is you have a system of where the political leaders that are in place are basically taking what they can from the people and leaving the people without. This is what I've witnessed happen over the years, and so it's like it's very difficult to talk to the people that are in charge, because what you get is a pushback from them, and then you're talking out of order, or you're not welcome there, or and people are just there to voice their concerns about the communities, but they push them out when there's something that is basically saying to the people that they're not doing their work as the leaders of the nation. So you have a very strong it's just a negative energy about how things are conducted uh, on the reservation, which is basically what the country itself is doing to the people. And so they model that same behavior under the tribal um, uh, governing system, and that basically models the main body of government in this country. And so it's the same effect as what's happening in a broader view throughout the country of the United States, and what's happening in that little community back home on the Standing Rock Reservation. So it's all a model of the bigger system, and it's affecting our people really, really bad, to the point of where it's like nothing ever gets done, and the people are struggling here. In 2021, we are still struggling as the First Nation people, and it's very hard to get that information, or that point across to any officials, because they won't hear it, all the way from the tribe. And then when the tribal officials do go to the government, the main topics of the person in each household on the reservation are never talked about. The main things that our people struggle with is alcohol, drug abuse, the abandonment of all these different things, the mass incarceration of our people, all the way up to the suicides, all these different things that fit into this whole broad spectrum. It's like those things aren't talked about. They only talk about the bigger issues, which are basically funneling money, and the main issues at hand are never talked about, which is the individuals themselves. And that's where our people are struggling, and they're really suffering bad from it. So I hope that this will someday change. and we can bring a different idea to the people to where we could live by, which is our ways of life going back to before the 1800s. It would really matter, I believe, in my heart.
Well, that's good. And that really brings me back to what we can do about it, the changes that need to take place, and what we are doing about it. MetaOne recently partnered with you on a project to make the lives better of the community. And can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, of course.
How are we beginning to make it better?
Well, first of all, thank you, Meta One, and all of the people involved with your guys' group. I appreciate it deeply from my heart as to what you guys were able to do for my hometown community of Little Eagle. It was a blessing to know and to hear that you guys wanted to help out with some kind of heat source. It started out with wood, and then we decided that propane was a good thing because of the majority of the homes being heated, and they cook with propane today as of today, and there's only like 8 homes that are still burning wood. So knowing that Meta One was there to try to make a propane donation to the tribe, it brought a lot of happiness to my heart that I could actually be here in a state couple thousand or 1,000 miles away and still try to help the people back home, to be able to help you guys to be able to donate some of what you guys have, which is your time and your efforts and funding for the people, because they really need it. So the propane thing, when it came out, it was a good thing, and I'm hoping that we can go forward towards doing something else to be able to help the people. But what basically took place was that Meta One wanted to be able to get the people some propane, and so Justin asked me if I could get a hold of some people back home, find out how many homes there was that used propane, how many used wood. There is a couple homes that are using electricity for heat and cooking sources, but uh, Meta One, we made the phone calls, and then Meta One got their people on the line from Standing Rock, the Standing Rock Propane Company, and they did their talking to them. And I believe those donations will be coming out this week, I believe. But what we had was 39 people calling out of 112 homes. And so those people will be receiving propane.
And we also have another order in for a substantial amount of propane to help the additional homes for an additional period of time, right?
Yes, that's going to be coming out here a bit, I believe, this week. So again, grateful for that, and I'm hoping that this time we'll get a few more people calling in, because I got the information back that the reason why not everybody called in was because a lot of people don't have access to long distance calling, and the amount of time that was given was sufficient enough for people to be able to make the calls. So hopefully this time we can get that corrected so that more people can call in and get what you guys are giving to them. So,
and also, you're really involved with rebuilding the Sioux people, the Lakota tribe. And but right before we went on, you were talking about the programs you were wanting to institute, and the ways that you're wanting to help the people find themselves and find peace within their community, the tribe, and sort of rebuild the people. Tell me a little bit about that. Feel into that feeling that you had in your heart. And
okay. Yeah, no problem. Sure. Um, Again, growing up on a reservation, and then experiencing a lot of things in my life at home and outside of the reservation, what I viewed from the outside was when I started getting all these experiences of having leadership roles, from lead carpenter to supervisor of certain things with emergency medical services or whatever, and then again at the camp. In 2016, being one of the head security of the camp against the Dakota Access Pipeline. What I've discovered was that our people are in need of a purpose, and they need to be able to have certain things put back in place, like the rites of passage of our younger generations, the women and the young men, so that they can have basically a real pride and motivation in themselves to be able to look forward to the next good deed that they can do for their people. So this goes back to the plan of like I want to be able to implement a plan where we have a secular site to where we can invite different people in to be able to teach them everything from the language to the culture, which would be everything from hunting skills to butchering to supplying your own meat, whatever the case may be, trapping. So and then we can bring in our traditions, which would basically be the foundation of the living space that we're in, and then our spirituality. And it'll all start with our spirituality, giving a people a reason for being alive by through the spirituality and the conduct that each one of our people need to be able to show one another with the respect and the values of a human being, from one human being to the next. So establishing a foundation of spirituality, we turn into traditions, which would basically be younger generations helping out older generations helping out younger generations, and in the sense of being able to give back to one another instead of the mindset that we've kind of fallen into of the take kind of thing, and be able to have the people to bounce back. Now, I once had a headstone business where I would like to take that back to the tribe and help bring these men together and give them some work, and they can build their families headstones and put them in place. What that's going to do is it's going to help bring about an individual a sense of being, a purpose, and a sense of pride once they accomplish whatever it is that they have done for their family members who have passed away. It'll give them the sense of culture, because I want the men to be able to work together and do the things that they need to do without all this animosity between one each other. Give each other a reason to be prideful of one another and themselves, and then push on from there to where we can actually get these young men and to be able to be doing things like policing their own people, um, and practice prevention and before punishment like it used to be, because our people were a very unified people that from age of when the baby was born, boy or girl, all the way up to age 7, the women took care of the babies, and then they passed them on to the men, where the men took them and taught them how to be masculine, where the women taught them how to be feminine, all the way up to a certain age. That instilled different things, like how a man would have compassion for another man, because of the mother taught them that, instead of just all the father teaching them about different things like that in today's society we view as too manly, and then they go overboard and they get themselves in trouble just from what's in their mind, and it's not from their heart. So if we place the spirituality back in place with the heart, I believe we can create a foundation to where these men have a purpose and they pass that around along to their children and their grandchildren. But we have to find a way to get that back, and I want to start this project back home. Also, if I don't know if Justin has mentioned to you, I want to try to start a program called Brothers for Brothers. And I want the ladies of our group to be able to start a program called Sisters for Sisters, which would be able to have there are four different things that are uh, purposes that this foundation will have. Is it'll help the young men and women come from the reservation, pick up donations and supplies down here. They'll get to travel across the country, see a little bit of land, get off the reservation. They'll be able to come down here. Maybe we'll take them to the beach. We give these men and these young men and young women some donations that we have. It could be everything from hygiene products to whatever the ladies need and whatever the men need, and we allow 4 different men to come down each separate time, and we start like a trade route with the families back home. If you bring down here certain medicines for us, we'll send back these stuff to you guys. So we open up a free trade route with our people back home on the reservation, and then you get to have these young men and women being prideful of themselves of actually going out to someplace else and bringing back needs, necessities for the people, and then get dispersing them the way the people needed them to be dispersed. So that's a plan, another small plan that I have that I would like to get going here in the next couple months, to be able to start sending stuff back home as the summer breaks. So I'm hoping that some of this stuff I'll be able to emphasize and start building on once I get back to my land on Standing Rock. And then, as I told you before, I'd like you guys to be involved to where I can give you guys different timelines of certain things that have been taking place, and then we can show the people that, hey, this is what's taking place here on Standing Rock, and we like to be able to support that if they choose to do so. So
Oh, that's fantastic. And I wanted to ask you, what were the living conditions like on Standing Rock? Like, what are the temperatures there right now?
right.
And then how are people living? And just give me a picture of what the improvements will look like. It's astounding.
Yeah, I right now it gets pretty cold up there in this time of year, anywhere from 5 below to 20, 25, 30 below with the wind chill. And so I don't know what the weather is right now up there, but uh, I'm hoping that with the plans that I have in place is you have men working 24/7. If, like, we have no snow removal up there, only the tribe, but they don't go out to the country roads and remove snow from the ones who live outside of the community. They come into the community and remove the snow from the roads and everything, so people can get in and out. And but you hopefully will have some people in place that would go and do snow removal outside the community, so that everybody will be able to move about the way they need to. Right now, there's probably a lot of people that are hurting for propane and wood, along with their electric meter payments, because the electricity bills skyrocket during the winter time because of the furnace constantly going, stuff like that. So and like I said before, right now there's things that need to be done on as far as the housing is concerned on the tribe, because you have a lot of uh, homes that are infested with black mold, and there's really, I mean, the families are living in them in those conditions, and they're not doing the potential that they could to clean that up for them or build new structures for them. So it's kind of a dangerous living situation right now with the younger generation. A lot of them are getting respiratory problems and different things like that from the black mold. So I would really like to be able to see some of those issues brought up to the tribe and for the tribe, so that they can make those corrections for the health of the people.
It sounds like it. And do you have systems in place for healthcare?
There is the IHS, and then if people are uh, recommended to go see a specialist, they have to leave the reservation to go see that specialist. But there's the Indian Health Services up there, which is it's not very adequate for the healthcare system of any people, so it's just really not, it's not a good system at all, the IHS. So it's mostly a Tylenol and Motrin kind of thing, and where you go in to have something looked at, and they send you home with Tylenol or Motrin or ibuprofen, or they want to give you some kind of, in my experience with the IHS, they wanted to give a lot of people experimental vaccines. And I'm an anti-vaxxer, so I don't, I deny that all the time, but a lot of people don't. And so it's really a scary system to be a part of. And they say that the health is free for the people. The healthcare is free, but I think it's at the cost of people's lives. That I don't think it's free at all. When it comes to the healthcare of the IHS. So
It sounds like improvement needs to be made in every category.
absolutely.
How can we as a larger community help support Standing Rock and improve the living and human conditions of the Sioux people?
I think where a start could be, where you can make a start, is giving a purpose, just even a small purpose. And one of the things that comes to mind is the youth. I believe that our youth and our children need to be uh, better recognized as far as their existence, even because like my community of Little Eagle, there is no playground. There's no activities for the children for after school. There's really nothing for anybody to do. And so, and that kind of falls into the youth and the the men and women of the early 20s, to where the boredom has basically taken the people to be doing things that they normally wouldn't if they had something to be able to steer them in a different direction, in a different frame of thought, and that purpose of doing certain things. Like, I'm thinking about the children right now. If you was to get a few men together and help with maybe a playground, or something like that, to where the kids can go, some kind of a little park to where the kids can go and the babies can play, and the moms can associate, do stuff like that. And then it'll give these few men a purpose of building this playground, and it'll go full circle from there. And so it just that, finding a purpose, the babies having fun in a place where they can be safe, and the youth and the elder, young adults get involved to be able to do this, to provide for those younger ones. So
Okay.
I think that would be a start, to start with the youth and the younger ones, to give them a purpose.
I think that's really important too. And it kind of gets back to something that you said earlier. I think we were offline, but your people, the people have been used to living with handouts, and
Yeah.
it hasn't really done any good. It doesn't do good for anyone. And there's case studies that show that handouts don't do good for people. So really what you need is a hand up.
Yes.
And
Absolutely.
that's exactly what you're wanting to do, so that they can establish themselves and be more self-sufficient.
Yes.
How can people help you help them? Is there a way that we can, if someone is listening to this podcast and they want to contribute, how would they go about doing that?
Well, first of all, for if they wanted to contribute to anything as far as finances, I'd have to get back to you about that. But um, as far as helping me to help my people, I believe that right now I'm kind of lagging behind on some kind of assistance to get some stuff programmed onto the digital world, to where I can make this a physical thing to hand to somebody as an idea. It's in black and white, and here's my plan, and I believe this will work. Here's what it's based upon, and this is how we'd like to go about that. So I would like to, like, be able to help, get some help from somebody who can help me organize this stuff digitally, and then go from there. Because once I have that plan in place on paper, I can then present it to the people in question that can actually do something for the people that are in need. So right now I'm just like stumped on as how to go about it, because I told Justin many times I'm not a techie person. And so, but I have the data, and I have the ideas to implement into what we need to start doing for the people, because there's so much uh, different things that are involved, everything from the animal nation to the plant nation to the human nation, that it all intertwines. And so, to get that all into one area, and in a few pages or a document, it's going to take a little time, but everything's right here, and I just would need some time to be able to get that out.
Well, it's exciting to know that we're moving forward in helping those that were here in the beginning. And I think it's our duty to be able to assist those that have been harmed in the past. And I really appreciate you being on the program today. We will put some sort of information link in the show notes, so that anyone who is called to reach out, they can, and they'll have a way to reach you. They'll have a way to assist in this effort. So, with saying that, I know we'll be in touch again, and I know that the efforts that we continue to make, with the project of keeping the people warm for now is ongoing, and anyone who wants to contribute can do that. And Meta One is very proud to be able to help the people in this effort. So thank you so much, Runs Before Them, for sharing your story and sharing projects and your vision with me today on the podcast.
Wopila. You're welcome.
Is there anything you'd like to say finally before we close?
No, I'd just like to say thank you again to Meta One for all their assistance and their help and their compassion for the people that are in struggle, and thank all the people that are listening to this. And I hope that you will take into your heart some in consideration of some of the things that we spoke about, and try to reach out to help the people that are in need. That's because a lot of nations are in need right now. So we thank you all for your concerns and your love, and blessings to everybody.
Thank you very much. And what is good for you is good for me. Thank you for listening to this inspiring podcast. We always look forward to reading your comments. We always appreciate when you share our work. Please look for our written blogs on meta1coinreport.com. And until next time, live freely and live abundantly.